Hey, probably you know who's that guy. That's Mr. Who's the Boss, and probably you've watched some of his videos already. And that's what exactly happened to me a few weeks ago, and the thing that caught my attention was his lower thirds. Then straight away I start thinking, wow, can I create the same one, if not the same one, a similar one in Adobe Premiere Pro? And if you want to find the answer to this question, I'm afraid you have to watch this video until the end. So without wasting more time, let's jump straight to my laptop. So how I did it? I went first to captions and graphics because you have more options into the essential graphics panels when you click on edit. Then I created a perfect ellipse tool by holding shift and the left button of the mouse. And then I repositioned it so it could be exactly at the middle of the program monitor. Then I selected, went back to the essential graphics panel and changed the name to fill and stroke number 1. Because later on it will be easier to recognize all these shapes around the screen. After I've changed the name, I went down to appearance and enabled the stroke option and increase it up to 13. And also I changed the fill solid color to linear gradient, which is a new feature in Adobe Premiere Pro. Then I tried to find as similar as possible brighter and darker green that Mr. Who's the Boss used in his lower thirds, which hex codes I will include into the description down below so you can use it in your future projects. But at the end of the day, you can use whatever colors you want for your lower thirds. Then I duplicated the ellipse shape and changed its name to stroke number 2 because this will be the second stroke around the first ellipse shape. Then I went back down to appearance, disabled the fill option, but left the stroke option, which I increased to 30, and also I changed the solid color to linear gradient and used the same brighter and darker green that I used for the first ellipse shape. Then to create the rectangle shape, I used the pen tool and tried to make it look as similar as the Mr. Who's the Boss one. Also, if you want to create a perfectly straight rectangle, you have to hold shift at the same time while you're doing it. And when I was done with it, I went back to appearance and changed the stroke from 30 to 13. And also I enabled a fill option, which color I changed from gray to white. Then I changed the rectangle shape name to rectangle because it's rectangle. And also I moved it under the other two shapes. After that, I tried to manually align the rectangle with the ellipse shapes, but then I realized that if I select all of them, go to align and transform and click onto the vertical center icon, this will do it automatically for me. And when I finished creating the shapes, the next thing I did is creating a text. So I hit onto the T button for the type 2 and type down Premiere Pro. Then I went to the essential graphics panel and changed the text color from solid to gradient as well. And guess what? I've used the same brighter and darker green again, because I promise you that I'm gonna show you how to create the same lower third like Mr. Who's the Boss. So that's what I am doing, guys. And because of that, I will really appreciate if you hit the like button if you haven't done it yet and subscribe to my channel. Then I changed the text font to Franklin Gothic Medium Italic and made all letters capital by clicking on that icon. Also, I increased the text size a bit and placed it at the center of the rectangle. And now the fun part begins, which is the animation of all these shapes. And first will be the fill and stroke shape. So what I did is creating 7 keyframes onto the scale option, and the distance between the first 2 keyframes is 10 frames, where the first keyframe value is 0 and the second keyframe value is 108. Then the distance between the other 4 keyframes is 20 frames from each other, with values 100, 108, 100 and 108 in the same order, followed by a last keyframe with 0% value, and 10 frames forward apart the 6th keyframe. Then to make the animation smoother, I select the last and the first keyframe and then ease in, and then I selected the rest of the other keyframes and ease out. And when I play it, you can see that the animation is much smoother. And to synchronize the fill shape with the stroke number 2 shape, I simply copy all these keyframes, move the cursor at the beginning of the sequence, selected the stroke shape number 2 and press Ctrl and V. And like that, that will save you a lot of time doing all these keyframes all over again. And creating the rectangle animation, I moved 10 frames forward. Then I created a rectangle mask over it, made it a bit bigger than the rectangle shape and dragged it all the way to the left. So when the rectangle pop out on the screen, it will be like coming out from the ellipse shape. But to achieve that, first of all, you have to go back to the mask and click onto the inverted box option. Then I went down and created keyframe onto position and also drag the rectangle all the way to the left until it disappears. Moved 5 frames forward, created another keyframe, and this time I dragged the rectangle back to the program monitor. And then I move the cursor backwards and forward until I find the perfect spot where I can do the slide out animation. And once I found it, I did exactly the same like the first 2 keyframes, but this time it was the other way around. Then I ease in the last and the first keyframe and ease out the other 2 at the middle. And when I played, I saw that animation is a little bit too fast. So to fix that, I selected the last keyframe, move it a few frames forward, and then I did the same with the second keyframe. And when I played it again, it was much better. In the next step, I copied the rectangle mask by pressing Ctrl and C and pasted it over the text layer. Like that, you can save time doing this mask over again. Then I moved down to the text position and drag the text all the way to the left until it disappears. Then I matched the second keyframe with the rectangle keyframe and drag the text back on the program monitor. However, when I played it, I saw that the text is not synchronized with the rectangle, so I had to move the second keyframes few frames forward to synchronize it. And for the outro animation, I did exactly the same, with a slight difference. This time I had to move the text last keyframe a few frames backwards so it could be synchronized with the rectangle. And when the shapes animation was done, I had to add my PNG image. So I went back to the edit section, I selected my PNG image and dropped it over the shapes layer. And by the way, if you want me to do a tutorial about how I made my face as a PNG image in Photoshop, please let me know in the comment section down below. To make my lovely head a bit smaller, I went up to the effect control panel and from scale, I scale it down to 9. Then from position, I use X and Y to place my head exactly at the middle of the ellipse shape. And to synchronize the head animation, I had to create almost the same scale keyframes that I have created for the ellipse shape, but this time with a different values. And because this part is a bit too long and basically doing exactly the same thing that I did with the ellipse shape, I'm gonna speed it up and go straight to the next step, which is easing the last and the first keyframes and then ease out the rest of the other keyframes. And with my head being animated, let's play the sequence from the beginning and see if I recreated Mr. Who's the Boss lower third in Premiere Pro. With only few details missing, I think that my lower third is very close to the Mr. Who's the Boss lower third. And I believe that his one was created in After Effects, which makes the whole process a little bit more easier. And to save time doing this over again, you can click with the right button of the mouse onto the shape layer, then go up to export as a motion graphic template. Then this window will jump in front of you and from there you can change the name of it and save it into your local template folder. Then the next time when you go to captions and graphics, go to browse, type the name of your lower third, and from there you can grab it and drop it onto the timeline. Then you can go up to the effect control panel and from motion you can scale it down, you can reposition it and place it whatever you like onto your videos. And now when you know how to create this amazing lower third, you can watch this video if you want to find out how to create addictive zoom in and zoom out photo slideshow / transition effect in Adobe Premiere Pro. Thank you for watching and I'll see you in the next one.